It's Wednesday, the 30th of December, the year of our Lord 2020, is the one-year anniversary of a very solemn occasion. That is when a young, brave doctor in Wuhan, Dr. Li, started notifying the guys, men and women he had graduated from medical school, that we have a problem here. There's a virus. There's a SARS-like virus that's breaking out widely. Later, we're going to have Dr. Li Ming from Hong Kong University on here to talk about that anniversary. That's the railhead of it all, ladies and gentlemen. Everything we're doing, the president keeps calling it the China virus. I know the president is going to get focused here in the beginning of his second term and start to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for what they've done to their own people, what they did to the United States, and what they did to the entire world. Remember, it's Lao Beijing is the deplorables, the China division of the deplorables. So we're going to get into all that a little later. We got so much going on around the country. We want to get everybody back from Pennsylvania, Arizona. But John Fredericks in Arizona. Lyle Rapaki, Liz Harris, state representative, the state representatives out there, Mark Fincham and others, are talking about a movement called the Total Recall Movement. And it's starting with supervisors, Republican supervisors in Maricopa County who lied and double-crossed people as they're using the system. They're not out in the streets going crazy. They say, let's use the system. They say, this is the system, let's use the system. They go through the Judiciary Committee, get a subpoena, and next thing you know, guys lie and try to run away. They're having a total recall rally this afternoon. We're going to be covering it later in the evening show. Tell me, is that the type of movement that could catch on down in the Peach State down in Georgia?
Yeah, we're going to go down there. I leave Saturday for another month, Steve. We're buying a radio station down there. Ann and I are CFO and in Metro Atlanta, and we're going to open a committee and start a total recall petition in Georgia, get it organized, raise the money, hire the right people. Because the only thing that these feckless, lying politicians understand who are allowing our votes to be stolen in this election and doing nothing, the only thing they understand is being shown the door. Other than that, they think they're smarter than we are, they're going to outsmart us, and come election time, they'll do the booty call, right, again, and we'll get nothing out of it. Those days are over. So what we have to do is we have to get organized, we have to stand up to them, and the only thing they understand is getting tossed out of office. All three of these are gone. What we're trying to do right now is actually we're encouraging those that might run campaigns against these various people to announce their campaigns now. I'd like to see Doug Collins run for governor. I'd like to see Senator Beach Balls run for lieutenant governor in the primary. Ginger Howard, the state committee woman from Georgia, has already said she's going to challenge Raffensperger. I wouldn't wait. Let's get these names out there now. Let's put the heat on them, and so they can stop lying to people. All Brian Kemp has to do to end this is call a special session around the electors, let the evidence be heard, decertify Georgia. Why won't they do it? You got to keep asking this question. Why? For what reason are they afraid to do this? Are they afraid to get the data out, the truth out, and the facts out? Right now, when you went to our fabulous advertisers, thank you for doing that, there was a forensic analysis witness at the Georgia Senate hearing who holds a number of patents in codes for bars, the bar codes, and he said, let me decode this for you. The Dominion machines simply don't work. They can't be trusted. You keep getting different results at different times. I don't think you don't need anything else. You don't even know now if the paper ballots that were fed into the machines, if the result came out was accurate. No one has any idea. They keep getting different results, Steve.
Okay, last thing before I let you go. I just want to repeat, we're going to go to Rudy Giuliani. Judge Gohmert is going to join us in a while to talk about the Mike Pence suit. But last thing, I just want to go back to testimony that's already been given by the election head down in the county in Georgia. What did she say? She said that they had been pressured. She'd been pressured by Roethlisberger and other county executives that say, hey, if you can't certify it, don't worry about it. We're going to certify it anyways. That the essence of her testimony?
She said there were 8 total counties that got intense pressure from Raffensperger to certify. She would not. She said 7 others did. because people are afraid. They don't want to go up against the Secretary of State and the machine. They just don't want the hassle. And look, a lot of these people that are election officials, they're not in the political limelight. They're not accustomed to getting the heat like you and I and Rahima Jack are every single day, or politicians are. They're not accustomed to that. So they got intimidated by it. And so they're forced to certify counties that they don't believe the vote is accurate or was in a position to be certified. That was a testimony today. The fraud and the lies that have gone on in Georgia, I'm telling you, Steve, this is their model. This is how the Democrats are going to continue to win election after election, including January 5th, by stealing, by intimidating, and nobody will stand up to them, including the Republicans.
Last thing, you're buying I just want to announce, you're buying a radio station down in Georgia. You're bringing the John Fredericks Radio Network. By the way, we're on Real America's Voice, Dish Channel 219, Comcast 113, on G News, GTV, on Rumble, Facebook, everywhere. Ubiquitous podcast, 26 million plus downloads. You're buying a radio station to broaden out the John Fredericks Radio Network?
I have to get Steve Bannon and War Room on in Atlanta and Georgia twice a day. That's what I have to do. And, I'm going to be 63 in March. We had a big debate over it, my wife and I. It was my business partner. And at the end of the day, she said, you know what? I don't really want to do this, take on the debt, but if not us, who? We got to get Bannon to Atlanta. That's what Ann said. So that's what we're doing.
Note to self, Ann should be chairman, not CFO. Okay, you should report to her. But I know you report to her anyway, but that's the brains of the operation. John Fredericks, you're a good man. How do people get access to you during the day?
Follow me on Twitter, @JF Radio Show, and go to my Facebook page, facebook.com, put in John Fredericks Show. Follow us there. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Keep fighting.
But always got to. By the way, we're going to, if we can get Denver to get the goat up there, we'll talk about that. I want to turn back to the posse here now. And by the way, the Breakfast Club, I know they have a drinking game over there with my sayings. I think they're the bourbon and nails breakfast, right? So drinking out of their bowl of porridge. Jack Maxey.
You know what someone pointed out in the live stream, and I just think it's so appropriate with Josh Hawley stepping up and showing his courage. Josh Hawley is from the show me state of Missouri. And this is what his standing up is going to do. We want people to show us the evidence. The American people are putting this election on trial, and we are not going to convict unless we have all the evidence.
Boy, if you want to see tough hombres, watch about Missouri. Watch Outlaw Josie Wales. I think Clint Eastwood's greatest directorial effort, right, if you want to see it. Raheem, how important, what kind of explosion politically in this city is Josh Hawley stepping up in front of guys like Tom Cotton, guys like Marco Rubio, a lot Mike Pompeo? I realize it's tough for Pompeo to do it. He's Secretary of State. But you're seeing somebody that's trying to come to the forefront, and not for his own political well-being, but actually saying, hey, this thing gets back to the Constitution, right? And we got to stand and fight here. This is the hill we got to die on January 6th.
Look, I want to go back to something that you said about how smart Josh Hawley is. You could see it in how short that statement was, right? That you could get so much across in just 3 short paragraphs that can be put on Twitter. Everybody knows immediately what he's saying. Think about it. He not only says, hey, here's the precedent for it. Here's what the other side were doing. Here's what's going on right now. Here's why I'm doing it. Here's big tech's influence. He says it all in about 150 words, which is a testament to A, how smart his comms team are, and B, how smart he is.
What did
the other way around.
What did Jefferson say? I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time.
Right.
It's when Hawley speaks, look at him in these committees. He gets right to the point. Bang, right there. Not a flowery guy, a to the point guy. And people are saying, hey, if you go to these Ivy League institutions, you can't be a populist. I could not disagree more. It's about your roots and it's about your belief system. Josh Hawley is a leader, and we need other people to step up and show their leader. As Jack Maxey is saying today, either lead, follow, or get out of the way.
I was just listening to Raheem talk about Josh Hawley's economy of words, and I was reminded that the Constitution has 4,543 words in it. and Congress is debating a COVID relief bill with 5,593 pages.
The guy that stood up before Lincoln at Gettysburg when they dedicated the military cemetery in November, a couple of months after the battle, took 2 hours. And I realized he predicated that on Pericles of Athens and went through the whole battle and everything like that. But it was like a 2 hour exercise. Lincoln gets up in 2 minutes, gives a Gettysburg address. So it shows you that to be concise and tight. By the way,
then you wonder why I speak so little on this show.
No, that's your.
By the way, you know the
True genius.
Exactly, pure genius, unadulterated. You know the European Constitution. Oh, sorry, the Lisbon Treaty, as it was called. Yeah. 70,000 words, and begins. His Majesty the King of Brussels hereby declares.
I want to talk about that. Hang on. I want to talk about what the EU is doing right now before I get into a segment that we can allow you guys to put forward your evidence. But I want to put up, if Denver can put up the GOAT. So somebody sent me something that said, Steve, this is you as the GOAT. And I thought, oh, greatest of all time. I love it when audience says that, right? So I open it up, and it's actually a GOAT. This is from Ann in Roanoke, Virginia. And by the way, keep sending us all this type of stuff. We're going to try to get much of it up there. And no, it's actually a GOAT that's so obnoxious, right? And in people's face all the time. He's a little guy. He can't beat anybody. He just run around. They named him Steve. It's the GOAT they named Steve because he's obnoxious and he's always picking fights. He can't win, right? He's getting his butt kicked all day long, but he's still coming back. So we want to thank Ann and Roanoke and all the other people in the posse out there. Remember, you're having a major impact, and here's why you're having a major impact. They're afraid of you. Remember, you're actually in control. Right? You're actually in control. They know that, but they hide it differently. Mainstream media's against you. The tech oligarchs against you. Their hired guns, the lobbyists and the politicians are all against you. They want this system to continue to go as it's going, but they fear you. And here's what they fear is your intelligence, your resolve, but kind of, hey, this is the way we're going to do it. We don't need to call the Insurrection Act. We control this country. It's time to act like we control this country. And you're seeing citizens do this, bring this all to a head. It's going to not just culminate. I think the next high point is going to be on the 6th. I think there's a lot of people have thought this through very deeply. That's one of the reasons you're going to see a lot more of this kind of testimony or putting facts out over the next couple of days. So is Josh Hawley. You imagine Josh Hawley with his legal training and his legal mind spending 2 hours in the Senate showing the receipts? Because this is what you're going to have. And if you had Tom Cotton, and you had Ted Cruz, you had people like that backing some of the smartest brains. You look who's on our side of the football in the Senate, and you compare them to the Mitch McConnell crowd, I think I'll take our guys, right? But we need everybody. It may not be a home game. It may be an away game. So we need everybody to sign up for this. I want to come back. I want to get to the evidence, but I do want to talk about the system and particularly what's happened in the EU and Brussels with the Chinese Communist Party. It's the way the system works. This is what we're up against on a global basis. We're going to take a short commercial break. Raheem and Jack, we've got Dr. Yan, we've got Louis Gohmert. We're going to go back to hopefully get as many people in Arizona and Pennsylvania as possible, try to cram it all in the most action-packed 2 hours in all media. That is the show that actually every day talks to and presents information to the deplorables and also their allies throughout the world. The Gilets Jaunes, the Lao Beijing in China, a global audience, a global group of populist nationalists worldwide. We're going to turn in a moment with Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam in the War Room.
And you are over, 'cause we're taking down the CCP.
Dr. Yan?
Hi, sir.
Hey, we're just going to toss the ball to you. I may have to come in a couple times and help translate. Here's the reason. We have the audience is like 20 times the size when you used to first come on, and a lot of the new people are not familiar with they're familiar with you, but sometimes the way you talk, so I may have to come in for clarification. But I'm just going to toss the ball to you about Dr. Lee. Talk about his heroism, everything about this is the 1 year anniversary. I just want you to go into that.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, the reason we're in this fiasco is because the Democratic Party very in a sinister way, in a cunning way, used the CCP virus and the havoc it had caused in our country and throughout the world to actually rewrite the rules and get to something they've wanted to do for years that Nigel Farage and Raheem Kassam have been warning us about, and that is mail-in voting, where you can't ascertain who exactly is doing the voting. This is exactly why we have a constitution in this country, okay? Let's go back to the railhead. We have a financial crisis, too. By the way, they're talking about bills up there that are, right now they want to do the $2,000, which the president should do, but they don't want to do the $500 billion in cuts that would have to come with it. So right now we have $28 trillion on our balance sheet. And more than that, the contingent liabilities are, hundreds of trillions of dollars. Okay? This is what's destroying the U.S. dollar. You got deficits as far as the eye can see. The economy, the Trump economy that he had turned around from Obama and taken to the next level, had wages rising, lowest unemployment among minority communities. This is why the minority communities came out. This is why the Hispanics came out, working class Hispanics. This is why working class African Americans, particularly African American males. The understanding, the confrontation with China, he's bringing manufacturing jobs back here to the United States, high value added manufacturing jobs. And guess what? Also the supply chains. That's what's, and remember that this got exacerbated during this crisis by the CCP virus. Just like we have heroes here in the United States stepping up and standing up for the Constitution, there are heroes throughout the world, and particularly in China. There have been heroes from the beginning. The Chinese people have stood up and said and tried to tell the world, hey, there's something wrong here. Two of the heroes are Dr. Li, and Dr. Li was a young Chinese physician in Wuhan, who on I think it was WeChat, went out to his friends and said, we got a problem here, and we got to start telling the world about it. His demise, he died, I think, a month later from the virus itself. But in the interim, he was absolutely crushed by the apparatus that is the Chinese Communist Party for putting out the truth. And then later, Dr. Li Minyan from Hong Kong University came to the West to tell us. She's a fact witness. She was the first person that was put in contact with Beijing CDC by the reference lab of the World Health Organization in Hong Kong to find out what in the hell is going on in Hubei province, what in the hell is going on in Wuhan. We have to have the truth. We're very honored to have the defector who really came to the West to tell her story and has really changed the course of history in doing it, and is relentless about saying, hey, folks, just remember, this is a bioweapon, right? This is a biological weapon. And much as she's mocked and ridiculed by the mainstream media, they haven't been able to refute any of the details of what she's talking about. So Dr. Yan, from the American people, welcome once again. We're honored to have you on, and particularly honored to have you on in a date that, as the history of this time is written, will go down as very important, when a young Chinese physician actually stepped up and said, folks, there's something really wrong here, and we've got to let the world know about it. Can you tell us the story of the heroic story of Dr. Li?
Okay, good morning, sir. Thanks for having me. Dr. Wenliang Li is a young doctor. He's an ophthalmologist in Wuhan, and he's in my age. At 1 year ago, at this day, he started to tell people via the WeChat, notice his colleagues and friends that there was unknown new disease, which is SARS-like disease, happened in Wuhan. And this was diagnosed by the hospital and also gene company. So he also showed the files to show that it was SARS-like virus. And this thing makes the spread in the medical field very quickly, and also soon go to the society. And that make our government, Chinese Communist Party, very angry about that. So immediately, in China, when you're talking in WeChat or online, whatever, you're under surveillance. So immediately, he was arrested and put to PlayStation, and he's forced to admit he was wrong. He was spreading rumors. And then for CCTV, all the state media, they start to blame Dr. Wenliang Li, said he spread rumor, make the society not stable. And he was punished to go to the outpatient section in the hospital to treat those patients government don't admit. And 1 month later, he got infected. And the government also purposely delayed his treatment. So before the, I think at the end of January, early February, I can't remember exactly date, he passed away.
Dr. Yan, hang on for 1 second. I want to make sure the audience understands this. He was the first one to come forward in these WeChats. That's totally observed by the CCP. What they did was not to go and ask questions and to say, hey, how can we find out more? They didn't need to do this because they already knew what the truth was. What they did is held him up for public ridicule to make sure everybody in the nation knew that he was guilty of rumor mongering. They say rumor mongering, which is almost a capital offense, and they made it a capital offense. Because the part of the story that Dr. Yan tells that the mainstream media won't tell is that after punishing him and threatening his family and doing the social credit and all that, which is the social credit with the tech oligarchs here, right? Just like in China. They then humiliated him, told his family we weren't going to be able to go to the schools, all that. They then sent him, he's an ophthalmologist. He did kind of volunteer to go back and help, but they sent him to the outpatient clinic. They sent him back there to die. They wanted him as out of the way as quickly as possible. Is that correct, Dr. Yan? Is that basically your story?
I mean, at that time in Wuhan, and also all over China, there was no enough PPE. And since government don't admit this high contagious disease, so the doctors don't know how to protect themselves, and they cannot do that, and the patients don't know how to protect themselves. So, I mean, Dr. Li was purposely sent to do this kind of things by the government. And I'm sure government knows this will put a lot of doctors and innocent people in danger, but they choose to ignore them because they don't want the world know there was novel virus spreading and will soon go around the world. And also when Dr. Li got sick, his treatment was purposely delayed. That's what I know by intelligence.
Dr. Yan, we just got a couple of minutes here. I want to make sure I go through this. You were immediately, I think a year ago tomorrow is your anniversary of this, you were put in charge of actually finding out what the facts were, right? It was around this time that you're from the reference lab that you worked at and kind of ran the lab in Hong Kong. Since you were a mainlander, you were put in charge of make contact with Beijing CDC and find out what's going here. Is that essentially correct?
Yes, I was put into the secret investigation because of my MD training and big network and also my PhD study in China, because I can be the bridge between the WHO reference lab in Hong Kong and also the China research and also medical field at that time. So I conducted from 31st December last year.
Dr. Yan, we'll get you back on tomorrow to go through that. But was there any interest at the time, in your professional opinion, of the Chinese government, the CCP, actually trying to get information out to try to stop this, or was there principal interest in suppressing all information about this so that they wouldn't be blamed for it?
So you mean the COVID-19, right?
Yes.
My opinion is the Chinese Communist Party, because this COVID-19 is a part of plan about unrestricted warfare to the world. This is a bio-warfare part. So, of course, they don't want anyone to understand it until it works. But somehow, because of the unexpected, the high contagious virus spreading in Wuhan, I mean, out of their expectation. So the doctors noticed that, and the people also feel it. Somehow, finally, someone will come out to tell it to others. That's why government become angry, because Dr. Wenliang Li and actually another 7 colleagues all get punished too. They are the first batch of people who did such things, these hero things, but government, of course, immediately suppressed it because their objective is not reached at that time.
Last question, Dr. Yan, and when you became evident that they were lying and you took other remedies to make sure the lie's there, you used this term, and I just want to make sure we got about a minute to describe it. You said, they will disappear me. What does it mean when the Chinese Communist Party says we want to disappear someone?
Disappear means from many aspects. So first, you have no reputation. No positive about you online or even your outcomes online before if they can control. Like, for example, they withdraw my part of the comment in we cannot get efficient COVID-19 vaccine in a short time in the paper last February. My part of interview, since I left China, they withdraw my part, remove my name. And also they will spread rumor online, tell people like I'm the hamster keeper, or I'm the one just want to get green card in US, like these things, and ruin your reputation. And also they will arrest your family, your friend, and make them all feel you are a liar, or they have to admit that you are wrong. And then you basically is social death in this situation. So you lose all the family, lose all the friends. And later, if they can get me, they will make me either stay in prison to die, or they will put me to mental disease hospital, or they will directly kill me. But no one will come to ask where I am because they dare not. They never get the result. That's the reason. Finally, I disappeared.
Dr. Yan, thank you very much. We'll get your social media up after the break. Dr. Li Min Yan from Hong Kong University, one of the most reputable institutions in the world. It's the reason it's the reference lab for the World Health Organization. She's both a witness of fact and really a Cassandra to the West that warned us, and particularly warned us about the new strains that are appearing everywhere from the Chinese Communist Party virus. Take a short break back. Judge Gohmert's going to join us next.
We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We got that set. I want to thank the guys in Denver. Very short-handed out there. Colorado's got a major outbreak of the COVID virus, plus it's the holiday season. Really want to thank the Americans, Real America's Voice, and the John Fredericks Radio Network for helping us produce the show over the holidays. We're live again tomorrow with breaking news. We got a lot to get in for the last 30 minutes. Judge Gohmert, we're trying to get some of Rudy's testimony. We got other things happening throughout the country of people protesting and getting into this total recall movement. But we got to continue to keep our eyes on why are we fighting? Why do we continue to fight? I want to bring in Roger Kimball. There was an article the other day talking about throughout the country, there's a movement underway to really eviscerate the Western canon, right? With what's been handed down to us generation after generation of the great thinkers and writers of the West. And there's actually a movement, I think it was out somewhere, where somebody's they think that Homer's Odyssey is too offensive to actually for young people to be to know about the Iliad or the Odyssey. And I've asked, I think one of the smartest, and this is what I say about our movement, the smart guys and men and women on our side of the football. That's what we see Josh Hawley out there throwing down. Another one of the smartest guys in America, and particularly for anything related to culture, and particularly high culture, is Roger Kimball. He's the publisher and editor of New Criterion magazine, which you also should subscribe to. Also, the president of Encounter Books, which puts out tremendous books, particularly these little small books they put out here recently from everybody from Brian Kennedy to Gordon Chang and others to talk about the threats throughout the world and to our nation. Also, he's a columnist at Times, which is one of the great voices on the right now, American Greatness, and the Wall Street Journal. And I want to bring him on. Roger, you really embody to me someone that understands that culture's upriver from politics, right? And we get into the nitty-gritty every day of what committee hearing happening, and we focus on the signal, not the noise. This is the signal. What are they doing to try to tear apart and tear away from younger generations, the wellspring of the greatness of the Judeo-Christian West?
Well, Steve, we hear a lot about dead white men and how we have to transcend our allegiance to dead white men. The really noxious part of that is not white, but dead. This article that you mentioned by Megan Gurdon the other day in the Wall Street Journal was called something like "The Mob Comes for Homer." These teachers were outraged that students should be asked to read a work that was over 2,000 years old. They didn't stop at Homer, of course. They went on to talk about the hateful rhetoric of Shakespeare and the slut shaming of Nathaniel Hawthorne's Scarlet Letter. This is an attack on who we are, and it's being foisted on us by people, the freaks like this chap Ibram Kendi and his many acolytes. The end is not to convince us; it is to humiliate us. You remember in George Orwell's book, 1984, it begins by talking about it was a crisp spring day and the clocks had just struck 13. Well, how bizarre is that? And you remember later on, Winston Smith, the poor anti-hero of the book, is compelled to recognize that if Big Brother says so, 2 + 2 = 5. And he says to himself, if 2 + 2 = 4, everything else follows. But what this movement of political correctness and identity politics has done to this country is to insinuate the spirit of nihilism, the spirit of cultural humiliation, and the spirit of perversity. And if we do not stand up to it, we won't have a country anymore. I was very happy to see Megyn writing that piece in the Wall Street Journal. I think it's gotten a fair amount of attention because it calls out the absurdity of this movement. One of the teachers said, "Oh my gosh, they're asking us to read books that are 70 years old, as if that were somehow ancient history." These people know nothing, and we have entrusted them with the sacred task of perpetuating the monuments of our civilization. And that way, Steve, lies ruin.
So, Roger, we had Josh Hawley just came out today, said he's going to stand with the Constitution to demand a full accounting on January 6th. And I was talking about, he's from Yale and from Stanford. Also, the new criterion in Encounter Books, and this is what I'm talking about, smartness. If people go there, you're not intellectually slumming. You're actually taking the game up because they're some of the most important, smartest books from Encounter Press, and also New Criterion. Even if high culture and culture don't interest you, start to subscribe to this because it will interest you. You understand it's part of the fight. Our audience, the reason the show is so powerful is this audience is action-oriented. That's where we got buses rolling to Pennsylvania Day. That's where we got a total recall movement, 20,000 people showing up in Arizona. That's why we forced these hearings down in Georgia. What can people do? Roger, we had Rabbi Sparrow on our Christmas Eve special, and he talked about the American Judeo-Christian ethos, that in America became, even from Europe, we took it to the next level for all mankind. What can our audience do to fight back? What can our audience do to participate? If they want to defend this culture, what would you recommend they do?
Well, you have just outlined some of the kinetic things that they can do. Go to Georgia, go to Pennsylvania, demand recounts. In my opinion, this election was rigged and stolen. I know that's not a popular opinion among our many of our pundits, but it seems to me that it's indisputable. But beyond that, I think you alluded to something that Andrew Breitbart said when he observed that politics is downstream from culture. I think that that's right. And in this country, one of the elements of culture, of course, is the Constitution. And what is the Constitution of this country? Well, it's a document that was intended by the founders to protect individuals from the coercive power of the state. And we have seen time and time again, in an accelerating fashion, the deep state, the administrative state, whatever you want to call it, subverting the Constitution in order to bring about that democratic despotism that Alexis de Tocqueville apostrophized with such eloquence in Democracy in America. It is vitally important that people return to to the wisdom of the founders, the wisdom of the Constitution, and beyond that, you're quite right. Homer is not our enemy. Shakespeare plumbed the depths of the human heart, and for someone who
He hit me? Okay. Sounds like something I would do. We'll get him back in a second. Roger Kimball. He hit me over there. Raheem.
Yes.
Observations.
Well, I was just making some notes, especially when he was talking about Orwell. I mean, if you read beyond 1984 and you read, Orwell's takes on the left, whether it's, I think, Keep the Aspidistra Flying. What else was there? There was, it escapes me now. It really compels one to write something about, I wrote Enoch was right. It really compels me to write Orwell was right. And I saw a lot of these left-wing feminist comedians on Twitter this morning talking about how much they loathe Christopher Hitchens because he said that women were preternaturally disinclined to be funny. They're not naturally funny. They don't have the same reasons. And so I think there's I think I need to talk to Roger about a whole series of Hitch was right, Orwell was right, McCarthy was right.
He's back on. Yeah. You can make a pitch. You can make a pitch right now. Roger, do we have you back? I think we have.
I wasn't aware that I had left.
Yeah, you somehow hit your mute. Listen, here's what we do. We want to have you back on. We can get in more depth of this. How do people get access to New Criterion? How do they get access to Encounter Books? How do they get access to you? Ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand. Yeah. For Guy takes incoming every day. Roger Kimball takes incoming from the cultural elites that he's doing in combat with constantly. So this is another guy we got to support. Another guy you've got to get more access to his writings, more access to his thinking. How do people do that, Roger?
NewCriterion.com for the New Criterion, EncounterBooks.com for Encounter books. And as you say, I write a regular column for The Spectator. I write a regular column for American Greatness and a regular column for the Epoch Times. So I'm not hard to find.
The New Criterion, you still have the ability to subscribe and get the. I know you're online, but you still put out the print edition, or are you totally online now?
We do.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's a beautifully produced magazine, and it can be yours. Listen, it costs $70,000 a year to go to Harvard or Yale or some of those other cesspits. It costs $48 a year to subscribe to the New Criterion. You do the math.
If you get the New Criterion, trust me, at the backyard barbecues, you'll be one up on the guys. Roger Kimball, you're an American patriot, and you're a hero to many, many, many people in this country. So thank you so much for coming on War Room Pandemic.
Steve, thank you very much. It's great fun.
These are the guys making it happen. I got to tell you. By the way, I think I'd like your Orwell was right. Enoch, talk about your book. This is another thing, Raheem gets more grief, but his books, the one about the no-go zones, absolutely brilliant. The one about Enoch was right is so powerful when you go through that and see, and he is such an incredible individual, right? And so much he said is prophetic. This is the thing. We're on the right side of history, right? That's what we kind of see over the other side of the hill. I 100%. You should be working on the Orwell.
I know,
right.
and there's several of this that goes on, and if anything, it's a strategic thing, right? The left pumps out these books. There was this article recently from I think it was in the Washington Post about how left wingers in Washington D.C. they actually buy bookshelves stocked, so that they can have a backdrop. For their Zoom book, they don't read them
by the yard.
Yeah, they don't read their books. They are pretty for them. They're ornaments. And it struck me that what they do is they pump out all of these books that scarcely anyone reads, but the titles of these books reinforce the history that they try to write or rewrite in real time, right? And Our Side doesn't particularly do much of that. Our Side writes investigative books. Our Side, you got the Schweitzer stuff, and you got the Michelle Malkin stuff. You got all these books that go into great depth and detail about journalistic endeavors, but we don't actually strategically back up our own philosophies and points.
Here's the power of our audience. It happened the other day with Taylor Marshall. His book went to, I think, he sold thousands of copies. The Last Stands with Michael Walsh has become a bestseller because we have a book reading audience. And the reason is they want to get to the receipts. They want to get to the intellectual receipts. This is a book. The great power we have is that the deplorables are mocked and ridiculed as breathing through their mouths. Guess what? The power of this movement is the combination of knowledge and of common sense in the ability of good old-fashioned grit, determination, and ain't going to back down. The cussedness that came from the American character. We're going to take a short commercial break. Hopefully we're going to talk about cussedness. That would be Judge Louis Gohmert, not a tougher hombre in all of Congress. We're going to try to get him here, and also Rudy's testimony as we come to the final segment, the home stretch on War Room Pandemic on our morning show. Honored everybody's listening. We'll take a short commercial break. We'll be back in a moment.
We're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all opportunity.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Now, with over 26 million downloads on the podcast, remember that's the smallest distribution methodology we have. We're on cable TV. We're live streaming all over the world, John Fredericks Radio Network. And we're honoring today the great hero of Wuhan, Dr. Li. 1 year ago today, he tried to warn the world what the Chinese Communist Party was hiding, that there was a major virus, a SARS-like virus coming out of Wuhan, where he was a physician. We'll get into more of that in the evening show tonight. I just got texted from one of the most prominent writers covering the White House, just sent me. Jake Sherman of Politico just said January 6th is going to be a very long day. And it's going to be a very long day because of heroes like Josh Hawley, heroes like Mo Brooks, heroes like Donald J. Trump. Now from Texas 1, the first district of Texas, we have a true American hero who never stops fighting. He's also one of the smartest guys about the Constitution, about the rule of law, Judge Louis Gohmert, the congressman from Texas 1, who the other day actually sued the Vice President of the United States. Well, one thing we do know, Judge Gohmert, Mike Pence, who we all love Brother Pence. He ain't going to Israel now. I think he's sticking around. Tell us, why did you sue Mike Pence? You're a good friend of Mike Pence. Why is Louis Gohmert suing the Vice President of the United States?
Well, you're right. He is a good friend. He is a very decent, fine American. And the lawsuit notes that he is sued in his official capacity. One wouldn't sue him individually, but in his official capacity, there are some attorneys that have advised, the vice president doesn't have a choice. But Stephen, we've got 5 states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania that have all sent 2 slates of electors. Well, the vice president is the one who is in charge, large and in charge, and the only one in charge in the joint session that we'll have on January 6th, where you have 2 different sets of electors that have been sent from state. Somebody's got to make the decision, and under the Constitution, that is the vice president. And so he has the authority to determine which set of electors are there by fraud and which ones are there legitimately without fraud. And he can make that determination. There is a conflict with the 1887 Electoral Count Act that would try to restrict his authority, but you can't restrict what's in the Constitution as an obligation. So that's in Article 2 as well as in taken with the 12th Amendment. So he does have that authority, and this is seeking a declaratory action from a legitimate federal court so that we have a declaration before January 6th that the vice president does have this authority. It's litigated. Now, the appeal may not be final, probably wouldn't be, but we're seeking to get that declaration and an injunction that would prevent fraudulently supplied electors from being recognized to vote. So this is really critical, and I do think the world of our vice president. He's a good man, but this is too important to allow some weak-kneed lawyers to determine what is very clear in the Constitution. You can't when you got a choice between fraudulently supplied electors and legitimate electors, you got to be able to choose between those, and this would declare the vice president has that authority. One other thing real quick, Stephen. I saw another article from Bloomberg yesterday that is still saying the biggest fraud about the election, and it's fraud in these articles. It says that fraud in the voting in the election of 2020 was unsubstantiated. Give me a break. Everywhere that they have had legitimate hearings, they have substantiated the fraud. The only place they haven't allowed a hearing is in the court system. Not one single court has allowed an evidentiary hearing where you bring in witnesses, you listen to experts, you look at the data, and then make a determination. Not one court has done that. They've found other bases from which to say we're not going to look at the fraud. So it is not unsubstantiated. It is substantiated anywhere they've actually had hearings and taken real evidence on this fraud.
Judge, we've only got about a minute left. Why do you think the courts are going out of their way to either say you don't have standing or pull up laches, that you should have come earlier? Why are the courts avoiding this, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, it's one of two reasons. Either, number one, they don't like Trump and they're letting their personal feelings affect their decision, or two, they are afraid either personally or they're intimidated by the Antifa, the fascists out there, no matter whether they call themselves Antifa or not. They're afraid of that, or they're afraid of the personal repercussions on themselves. And can you imagine the country we would not have now if it were not for founders that said, we're pledging our lives, our liberties, our sacred honor? We just need a few federal judges to have that same pledge. They pledged to an oath to the Constitution. Now they need to follow it, and they're not doing that.
Judge Gohmert, how do people follow you during the day? What's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, on both Parler and Twitter, at Rep Louis Gohmert, Gohmert.
From Texas.
Thanks so much, Stephen, for shedding light where it needs to be.
You're a great patron, a great hero, Judge Gohmert. Judge Louis Gohmert from Texas 1. He is a great man, right? Close friend of Andrew Breitbart's. Guys.
He's exactly right. It wasn't an election. It was not an election. We need to get into that, I guess tomorrow. But this, and what he says, goes back to the Electoral Count Act, which who knows is even constitutional, but they hide behind that. They say all the controversies that the Electoral Count Act talks about, they've been settled. No. This is settled on January the 6th, and it's up to the vice president.
It's all coming to a head. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be back at 5 o'clock. We're going to have a summary. We'll hopefully have Rudy on as a guest, talk about his testimony. What Judge Gohmert's saying, they continue to say it's nothing, no evidence, it's baseless. Well, guess what? The receipts are getting shown in Georgia right now. We're going to see how baseless this is, right? And we invite John Harwood to come in here. John Harwood, in honor of Judge Gohmert, he called him a crackpot. We would love to have John Harwood come into the war room. We'll walk you through the receipts. Until 5 p.m. today, the Fight Club returns at 5 p.m. on Real America's Voice. John Frederick, see you then.